Parallel texts from the Bible are a unique resource for studying language structure and improving NLP in thousands of low-resource languages. But is Bible data really a good proxy for current language use? I'm Amanda Khan, a PhD student at the Department of Linguistics at Stockholm University. And this is a brief video overview of the paper that I'm presenting at LREC-COLING 2024. And I'd like to begin with a very short summary of what we did and what we found. We took word order statistics, extracted from over 1,600 Bible translations, from the open Parallel Text Typology dataset. Across 7 different word order features, we compared the statistics from each translation to other same language translations, as well as to reference data from universal dependencies and linguistic typology databases. We found that word order statistics extracted from Bible texts were generally stable across translations and aligned well with our reference data. This suggests that certain properties that are particular to Bible translations don't seem to have a large impact on the extracted word order, which is promising for the usefulness of this unique data source in both massively multilingual NLP development and syntactic typology research. With that said, these results may not be generalized to the extraction of other linguistic domains, like lexicon, where text genre and topic will have a much greater impact. The limited reference data also meant that only a fraction of the nearly 1,300 languages in the dataset could be included in the study, which weakens the cross-linguistic power of our conclusions. Finally, we think that there are many interesting directions for future work that both makes use of and evaluates the Bible word order data further. For instance, a study focusing specifically on the effects of translationese and source language artifacts would be a very valuable contribution. Also, dividing data into more fine-grained categories during the extraction process could reveal some interesting patterns of word order variation and also reduce information loss even further. Now, I'd like to zoom in on the motivation for this paper and also the individual results from the 2 studies that we conducted. So firstly, why extract word order from text at all when there are linguistic typology databases that already encode various important structural aspects of language? To illustrate this point, I'd like to take the example of order of subject and verb. So looking at 2 typological databases, Walls and Grambank, they show pretty similar distributions of the different word orders. So there seem to be quite a lot of languages that prefer subject-verb order, in yellow here, considerably fewer languages that prefer verb-subject order, in blue here, and an even smaller subset in orange, which have no dominant word order. This is a fairly clear bimodal distribution of subject-verb on one side, considerably outweighing verb-subject on the other side, and a very small number of both or no dominant order languages in the middle. Looking at the proportion of verb-subject occurrences in text data, in this case in Bible data, we can see that the distribution of languages looks somewhat different to the picture painted by Walls and Grambank, respectively. While there are a lot of languages that seem to very strongly prefer subject-verb order, almost having no instances of verb-subject order, we do not see any such trends on the other side of the scale, so for languages strongly preferring verb-subject order. Instead, there are a lot of languages in the middle region that to some degree weakly prefer either subject-verb or, in fewer cases, verb-subject order. Now, these gradient representations have a number of advantages. Firstly, inferences made directly from openly available text data can be replicable and transparent to a greater degree than expert judgments in linguistic grammars. They're also less lossy than the typically binary or trinary typological categorizations, since they trade off ease of cross-linguistic comparison for a more detailed representation of intralinguistic variation. Now, because of this property, prior work has argued that these gradient representations would also be more suitable than categorical data for use in typologically informed multilingual NLP. For instance, when selecting appropriate source and target language pairs in cross-lingual transfer learning. Now, I'll move on to a brief dive into the 2 studies contained in the paper, starting with Study 1. For some languages in the dataset, there is more than one Bible translation available. Now, these translations might vary in a number of different aspects, such as the age of the translation and the actual translator themselves, as well as potentially the source language of the translation, etc. This might lead to variation, and as such, we wanted to analyze whether extracted word order statistics would be stable across same language translations. Now, in the table in front of you, the leftmost column describes the number of languages that we analyzed for each word order feature, and the middle and rightmost columns describe the mean and the standard deviation of our intra-language or inter-translation variation measure. Now, a low mean here would indicate a high degree of stability within languages for a given feature, whereas a high mean would indicate a lot of intra-linguistic variation. As you can see from the middle column, means are generally close to 0, with adjective-noun order being slightly higher than the rest. To analyze this feature a little more in depth, let's group the languages by their classification in typological databases for this feature. As you can see here, the greatest amount of variation is found for languages that are classified as either both adjective-noun and noun-adjective order being possible, or languages where there is insufficient data or disagreement between typological databases as to what the dominant order of adjective and noun is. This is the expected result and indicates that languages which seem to have a clear dominant word order also have a high degree of stability across translations. Moving to Study 2. There is also some overlap between the languages in the dataset and languages for which other cross-linguistic data sources are available, such as syntactically annotated universal dependencies corpora, or, as we saw in the last study, categorizations from typological databases, such as GramBank or Uriel. For the second study, we wanted to analyze if the extracted Bible word order statistics agreed with similar statistics extracted from universal dependencies data. This comparison is what's shown in the plots on your screen right now. For each feature, the ratio of head-dependent order in Bible data is plotted on the x-axis, and the ratio of head-dependent order in the universal dependencies data is plotted on the y-axis. Now, a distribution along the diagonal from 0, 0 to 1, 1 would indicate good alignment between the Bible data and UD data. And as we can see for some features, such as object, verb, and oblique verb order, these tendencies are relatively clear. For the remaining features, we are helped by adding a second layer, namely classifications from typological databases. Here we can see that the data clusters mostly like we would expect, with head-dependent languages approaching 1, 1 and dependent head languages approaching 0, 0. Some of the differences between the distributions of Bible data and UD data can be explained by differences in the extraction paradigms. For some features, like numeral noun and adjective noun order, the Bible dataset only considered a specific subset of numerals and prototypical adjectives for extraction, whereas such consideration could not be taken for the UD data. For more in-depth discussion of the results of the 2 studies, as well as a technical description of the methodology of these 2 studies, please see the original paper. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Thank you very much for listening.